Hello, loungers, and welcome back to... I'm your host, Jay, and welcome to my channel. You might notice we have our little tip dessert jar. Not a big drinker, so I've got my dessert jar up, and it'll put little treats in there when we get subscribers, when we get new loungers, and when we get super chats. So that is, if you're wondering what that dessert dish, that's where I'm going to put my ice cream later. I hope you guys are having a fabulous Sunday.
You're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
You guys are all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you found your way here. Thank God, Jenny. Thank God. Hello, Potato, Mimi Shell, and GB. And who else? Those are your mods, guys. Those are your mods. So don't mess with them.
It's very white-sided.
It's not white-sided.
Don't mess with them because they are not white-sided. That didn't even make sense.
Did you? Fallout.
God forbid.
God forbid.
One comment.
One comment.
So you guys, we're going to be going over a lot of stuff with this DNA. We know that in the Kohberger case that Ann Taylor has filed that she hasn't gotten any of this stuff. And she's asking for a lot of backup information from the lab. Thank you so much, Christy. Wait for it. Let's see what it puts in my dessert cup. Oh my gosh, Meg P. I know. It's crazy because I miss you guys when we don't have trial. Like I'm used to. Is my thing that delayed? I'm used to having you guys talk to every day. And then when we're not live, it's like weird. Like Thursday was weird when there was no court. Elmer Fudd, love from Dearborn. Hello, Dearborn, Michigan. Much love to Dearborn. Dearborn sausage and ham is the best. It really is.
You're being a Karen.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, Kanye. But we're going to talk about this lab because, first of all, if you haven't read the Blum article, Howard Blum's new section, part 4 of his article, and welcome, loungers, all of you, beautiful loungers. Thank you, Joe. Joe is such a positive supporter. Thank you so much, Joe. Much love to you. Much love. And I don't know why my little thingy isn't working. Oh, it is working. Look, there goes the grovels. Or whatever you call the gavels. Grovels. I'm going to grovel it. Thank you for your support, guys. There goes the scales of justice into the dessert jar. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right. So at any rate, we're going to be talking about the lab. Kohberger's lawyer says, we haven't gotten any of this stuff and we want total chain of command. And we went over that in our last video. So if you're not sure what those new documents mean and what all we're talking about, you can go back and watch our last live on the Idaho 4. John coming in hot. Dang.
Hey, bro. Hey, bro.
Thank you so much, John, for your support. I can't imagine what's going in my dessert jar once John gets through with it. Damn.
Given the fallout from...
Oh. All right. So they're saying they want to know every single chain of command this went through, who the lab workers are, what their credentials are, etc., etc. So we're going to start watching a video on the owners of this lab. And this is where they sent the DNA that was on the button of the sheath. So when you picture the button of the sheath, that's already small enough because it's really like it's a snap, right? So a regular snap. And then you've got to think they found DNA inside of that snap, which is kind of hollowed out, right? Because that top piece fits into that bottom piece. So that's like a bowl. The snap is like a bowl. And they found DNA inside of that little bowl of that snap. So when you learn more about this lab, I think you're going to realize why the defense is trying to tear it apart. It makes total sense. Christy gifting a membership. Who got it? Kaylee. Welcome, Kaylee. Welcome to the lounge. You got to put your tinfoil hat on, though. You got to tonight.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
All right. You don't have to. And we're going to go over some of their work. But I think when you see, hello, Carrie. I think when you see the kind of work they've done and the technology that this lab has, you're going to see why the defense is like, we want to know every little fucking thing because we got to find a hole in something. So hopefully this lab, everything's on the up and up inside with everybody working and with everybody who handled the DNA for Kohberger. However, according to the Washington search warrant for his apartment, they weren't relying on that DNA evidence. They were like, hey, if you need to exclude that shiz, go ahead, because we don't need it included. It helps, but we're not counting on it. So let's get into this and watch this little video, and then we're going to take a look at their website. But first, we're going to meet the owners of Othram. These are some smart people. You know, I watch videos like this, and I'm floored because I'm like, you know, ever since Love You Too, Obsessed, ever since COVID and like more people being online and things like that, it seems like we're really seeing some really brilliant people that we might not have heard of before, you know, which is a good thing, I guess. But there's a lot of smart people out there. Let's take a look. This is the husband and wife team, the doctors of Othram Laboratories. And they are located in the suburbs of Houston. Hello, Carrie. Thank you so much, babe.
This is no longer something you see on TV that solves some cases here or there.
Lab's run by husband and wife duo David and Kristen Middleman. He handles the science, she does the business.
We're taking this really challenging evidence that's historically been unusable for testing, and then we're enabling testing, and then we're doing that with hundreds of thousands of markers instead of, say, tens of markers of what you do in a traditional forensic
You go to like one of those consumer DNA companies to learn about your ancestry, spit in a tube, and you'll generate about 1,000 nanograms of DNA.
Okay, so I want to stop this because when you spit in the tube, he says, for like ancestry, you get 1,000 nanograms of DNA. This is all baffling to me. What's crazy is that in the Kohberger case, according to Howard Blum, they had 0.1 nanogram of DNA. You hear that? You spit, there's 1,000. They had 0.1. This is how precise these people can break these things down. It's nuts. So check it out.
At Othram, like we work off 0.1 nanograms.
Put it in perspective. How small is it? How small are we talking?
So the equivalent would be 15 human cells. If I touch David's shoulder right now, I've left hundreds of cells right here. We're often the last hope. Every time they give you that last bit of DNA or that last bit of evidence.
Okay, so it's really fast, but she said, can't remember how much. She said hundreds when she touched his shoulder.
Every time they give you that last bit of DNA or that last...
Like we work off 0.1 nanograms.
Put it in perspective. How small is it? How small are we talking?
So the equivalent would be 15 human cells. If I touch David's shoulder right now, I've left hundreds of cells.
Okay, just touching his shoulder, she's left hundreds of cells. And they had like 0.1 off that.
Okay, it is what it is.
Off that little button sheath. it's amazing to me.
Right here. We're often the last hope. Every time they give you that last bit of DNA or that last bit of evidence, that is someone's last chance of being identified. Someone's last chance to get justice for what happened to the person that they lost. 2018, we had noticed that several cases had been solved, the Golden State Killer, for example, using this type of technology, but
it was from a bunch of different pieces, right?
Correct. And you notice that not all cases were being solved, and it really isn't justice unless you can provide it and apply it to every
We're
case.
building kind of a molecular library of that DNA. So we're getting many copies of it, breaking it up into itty-bitty pieces, and each little piece is like a book in the library that describes some component of the information about that case. And what this is it's the most powerful sequencer on
Or are
Earth.
you calling law enforcement and saying, hey, I think
Every
we've got a
day.
hit?
Every day. We worked on a body that was found in...
Every day that he said, how often are you calling law enforcement? Now, every day.
We worked on a body that was found in a sewage tank for decades. We've worked on remains from 1881. And these are things that weren't possible a few years ago.
What do you think forensics is
Ooh,
going to...
potato, we should look at this. 72 bones found in New London barn connect to school teacher who died in 1881. Maybe oldest genealogy case to date. And they did it.
What do you think forensics is going to look like in 10 years?
So I think we'll live in a world where there are no backlogs.
So you think that this could prevent crime in the future?
I think it'd become a deterrent for crime. I would definitely think twice. I think if you've left DNA at a crime scene, it's a matter of time before someone like us or us processes that crime scene. Relationships that are super distant, like a fourth cousin, a third cousin, a fifth cousin, and all of these different matches allow you to be able to figure out where that person fits on a family, where they belong. And then we take that information, return it back to the investigators as an investigative lead, and then they contextualize it to their investigation. For example,
Okay, so that's what they did in the Kohberger case. Was they got the sheath, they got the little thing, and then they matched it to Michael Kohberger. See, now this makes more sense to me. Now this makes more sense to me. So they matched it to Michael Kohberger. Then they called LE and they said, hey, we've got a match and it's the son of this dude or something, however they figure that out. But that makes more sense to me. And then also the fact that Bryan, and this is also in Howard Blum's latest part 4, that Bryan was sitting in the kitchen. Now, I want you guys to correct me if I'm wrong. In Howard Blum's piece, it said that Bryan was in the kitchen divvying up his trash into Ziploc baggies. I thought that the PCA, and I haven't had time to check it, said a green leafy substance. Was he also bagging up his garbage with gloves and separating a green leafy substance? Because I'm confused on that. If you guys remember, let me know. But I'll look it up. I just haven't had a chance. Okay, so she's going to give an example.
It to their investigation. For example, if you give them a list of 3 brothers that could potentially be the person, then they look and see who was in the area at the time, who possibly owned the murder weapon, et cetera, et cetera. Or if it's an unidentified remains person, they would talk to the family and see if someone's missing.
Okay, it was Carrie. He was bagging up his garbage. Okay, because Howard Blum mentions that in his article. And unfortunately, once I read it and closed it, it's behind. I have to pay to see it. So I can't go back and give you guys screenshots of it like I wanted to or read any of it. But I did save one portion. Oops, not that one. He actually outed an FBI agent. I don't know why he did that. Okay, so here in the Blum thing, it says, Okay, I take that back. They didn't have the point one. I got the point one from the documentary. When I'm mixed up, I say I'm mixed up, and I was mixed up for a second. They had 20 cells. So she said when she touched his shoulder, she left hundreds, right? So he says that in total, according to knowledgeable sources, there were about 20 cells. And then he says, maybe, they whispered, even fewer. The DNA sample was as small as a fragment of a speck balanced on the head of a tiny pin. That's how small. And then he kind of made a little boo-boo. He said, and it had the Iowa crime lab, which he meant Idaho, and it had the Idaho crime lab stymied. It was a scientific challenge beyond their capabilities, but not beyond Othram's and its lab, equipped with a costly Novasec 6000. And I'm pissed that I can't finish the article because I got all involved in this DNA shiz, started looking up Othram, and then I'm like, shit, now I can't get back and read the rest of it. So if anybody is in there and reads it, if you could maybe screenshot the last part so I can read it, that'd be awesome.
When they went missing and see if it makes sense. And then they do the confirmatory DNA test to make sure that our result was correct.
So that's just a little clip of them. They are on numerous podcasts talking about their capabilities, talking about their lab. They crowdsource on their website. And we're going to take a look at their website as well. But I found this to be really interesting, and it kind of made me have faith in the DNA work, you know, rather than just going off the defense saying, hey, you know, we need this, this, and this. And then we all assume, we all jump the gun and we go, oh my God, well, it must be fucked up. And I think that's what they want. They want us to think that they fucked up the case. But yeah, so I think we have to take this all into, this made me feel a little more confident in that testing, and it made me understand better why Kohberger's father was, the garbage thing sounded a little hokey. And then Howard Blum mentioned how Bryan was literally, it was like, what, 3 or 4 in the morning? And he's, picture him at his table. And he's got his baggies, and he's got his trash, and he's got gloves on. And he's got no clue, apparently, that the feds are all around. So he's taking his trash, and it's probably really quiet, except for Michael Kohberger in the background with his random, right? So he's sitting at the table. He's bagging up his personal trash, which consists of God knows what. I don't want to know. And then they bust in, and he's caught with his hands in the trash. It's so weird, but it makes me think that he planned this a lot better. And then also take into consideration the body cam that was just released. They found nothing. They found shit. They were like, oh, here's a storage unit. We found out that they all have storage units at Steptoe Apartments. And then they go out to the storage unit, and they had to walk through cobwebs.
Bryan Kohberger.
He was smarter than they thought, I think. I really do. I think he surprised them. Because he didn't leave shit back in Washington. God, with the leafy green, right, like the leafy green substance is the least of his worries. However, where did he buy that leafy green substance? Because I'm wondering, because he left, remember? He left and he was driving around and they were following him. Brandywine. I love the cobweb. Dawn Daniels is like, God damn it, this thing hasn't been used in years. It does, Amy D. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if old Bri didn't come home after possibly being fired. It's rumored he was terminated. Possibly come home and have a heavy relapse. And he was all fucking tweaked. It's crazy. I really think he was a lot more meticulous than they had planned on. Remy, don't ever rent at Steptoe. They don't have enough closet space. Mandy, whose hair did they get off the shower wall? Right. We don't know that because that had to be tested, but was it blonde? Was it brunette? Whose was it? And maybe the hair on the shower might lead them to someone else they've arrested and we don't know about. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Joe says a study in Journal of Forensic Sciences found that a person who uses a steak knife after shaking hands transferred that person's DNA onto the handle in 85% of the samples examined. That's interesting, but it's on the inside of the button. So I want to pull up the sheath. Because wouldn't his DNA have been like other places too, right? Not just in that little crevice, and they wouldn't have just had like that one little tiny 20 cell thing of DNA. And I know this is a stupid, horrible like rendition. I don't think this is a K-bar. I think this is like a off-brand, but it has the same type of snap. So hang on. Okay. So really what we're going to be looking at is just that snap part. Damn it. So it was on this side of it. I got to get the actual K-bar because this isn't going to work. Off-brand ain't going to cut it. It has to be the K-bar snap because this thing looks like it was made at the Dollar Tree. Wait a minute. Oh. There's a couple different styles, though. I never saw these other ones before. All right, hold on a second, you guys. I'm going to download this one because this looks really weird. I can't tell what the dealio is with this snap. This is the K-bar Big Brother utility knife with leather sheath. Let's get rid of this dollar store cheapie. Okay. Right here. All right. So if we assume it's like this, I don't know what the frick this black thing is. Oh, it's just like a sticker. Okay. So it was on which side, you think? The one that overlaps or in this bucket type one? Like, which one do you think? Well, his hair's pretty thick and curly, so who knows whose hair it was. I mean, they literally took ketchup and barbecue sauce and whatnot from the kitchen and tested it for blood. I can't read it. But there's other ones. Hold on. Let me just share my screen here instead of saving each individual photo. And then we're going to look at that website. Don't forget, we're on Verdict Watch tomorrow again for Letitia Stauch. All right, let's scroll down here. That's the one we have up. I need to go. I see the problem is I want to find it. All of them are snapped around the damn thing. I mean, you would think if his. Can you guys see it? Here. You would think if he touched the button, it would be on the outside. But I don't think they described it as that. So would he, I've never used one of these knives. I guess for someone who has used one of these knives, would you be able to just yank that knife away from that snap? Do you know what I'm saying? Or would it take some effort? Like, would you have to, I guess when it's new, that snap would be really tight. So you'd have to flip it with your thumb. Really, Richard Mullins? I don't know. I think that it's very, very, very possible that he flipped this with his thumb. His finger went on the inside of it. He wiped off everything else except for inside that little bowl, like we talked about, the little bowl of it. Oh, yeah, we got that part all figured out over here now. Yes, we do. We know what happened with that. He popped that with his thumb, not thinking that one little bit. Watch this one little bit right here. Went up on the inside. But the fact that there's no other DNA, like, did they separate? And that's what's interesting about what the defense is asking for. Any other males? So they're going to have a problem if Brent Kopaka or I don't know, anyone. If anybody else's DNA is in there and there's other males, then they're going to be like, okay, well, what about him, and him? Then we're going to have to see if they have alibis and where they were. Richard Mullins. Wouldn't it have been easier just to ask BK's father to provide a DNA saliva sample rather than go through the garbage to get his DNA? Why make unnecessary? Oh, I think they would have made a lot of unnecessary work by notifying BK's father that they even needed a DNA sample from him because his son was a person of interest in a murder. I would think that would cause more work for them than staking out a rural house in Pennsylvania. When the people go to bed, you run up and you tiptoe through the tulips and you grab some trash. Hello, CEO. Hello, Lucia. Welcome. Hey, Casey. Just saw you guys coming in. So while we're on this, let's go over to Othram's website. And I want to share with you guys because, like I said, this made me feel a bit better about the entire situation. That so many YouTube channels are making you guys question. They're making you guys question so much and go into so many rabbit holes. And I think that you have to have a little bit of faith here and consider that a lot of people on YouTube, they get bit by the YouTube bug. And what I mean by that is that they get bit by that monthly payment. Because when you live every night for hours upon hours and you're talking about foolish shit, and you're getting people to fall into your foolish rabbit holes with you, you make a lot of money on YouTube, I think. Just saying. So consider your sources, consider what you're hearing, and if you're questioning it, fact check it. Because the shit's getting really bad out there. And there's 4 victims, you guys. 4 victims. It's like we had to remind, what the case was about yesterday. It's about Gannon, or Friday. It's about Gannon. This is about those 4 girls, or 3 girls and a boy, This is about those 4 victims. Can't believe I said 4 girls.
I think you've got a Ouija board down your pants, and you're going to pull that out.
All right, so let's take a look at some of their casework, because I hope that this... Hello, Cheryl T. Hello, Beauty. And I'm going to give you guys the link to their thing. It's actually Othram, O-T. I'll put it in chat, but I'll also put it in the description of the video as well. Because I want you guys to look at their website. They have, and they're not fooling around. Like, they're not just, oh, hey, I implore you to look at some of these YouTubers that call themselves like professionals. Go look at their websites. I think that you might be a little shocked. Sometimes you got to take that extra step and do a little homework. And there's their website. You guys can go here. They have a lot of cases they've worked on. So let's scroll through just some of those. And there's a few I wanted to actually click and go a little further on. But most of these, if not all, are not active cases. These are mainly old cases. But they said there is 200,000 unsolved deaths. And if you look here, Oregon, 1981, remains of a skull. It was entered into NamUs, but the identity of the skull remained a mystery.
Just help a brother out here.
In 2022, skeletal remains were submitted to Othram, where scientists developed an extract and used forensic-grade genome sequencing, I probably said that wrong, to build a DNA profile. Othram's in-house genealogist used the profile in forensic genealogy research, which indicated the distinct possibility the remains were, in fact, Miss Isla Ella Wilkins. She was positively identified by Oregon Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Sean Hurst in 2023. And then they have this too. They go a step further. So here's her story. You can read all about their story. The thing that shook me, though, is where it says contribute DNA. So there's a thing here called DNAsolves.com. You can submit your DNA to help solve cases. Thank you, the Richard. Appreciate you. Obsessed. Thank you. 200,000. I think Potato has the stats of how many murders actually make it to trial. It's astounding. But would you, I was thinking about this. Would you submit
Just help a brother out here.
Would you submit your DNA in order to try to solve a cold case somewhere down the line? I'm saying no. I'm not putting my shit in a crime database. Just because I'm a skeptic and I worry that they're going to get it wrong, that they're going to like mistaken my DNA for somebody else's and like accuse me or something. I don't know. My thoughts go wild with that kind of stuff. And if you're just joining, thank you for joining the 411 tonight. I have my dessert jar up on the screen, and you guys have been gracious to start filling it with all of the things that justice is made of. So I appreciate all of your support. Just as a reminder, the end of this week, I'm going to be making the trip to Michigan, and I'm going to be vlogging it for you guys. My first vlogging experience ever. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. So make sure you are subscribed and you hit that notification. I'll be doing some special lives at night, probably from my room. For members, for loungers, we're going to open up the lounge from the Mitten. It should be a good time. I'm going to take you guys around, show you some sights, maybe show you downtown Detroit and some of my favorite
Creektown, dude.
Some of my favorite places. So bear with me through the vlogging experience because I've never done it before. I sit in front of a mic and have everything right in front of me, and so it's going to be a new thing for me. I'm going to be using my phone, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for subscribing, Anomalies and The Real Deal. Say yes to Michigan. Did you know that's their slogan? Okay, back to their recent work. So we'll just scroll through. Here's one. In 98, the body of a man was found in California for over 20 years. His identity was unknown. And they identified him as Eric Cupo. 87, this woman, Sue Hyatt, was found deceased. The murder was unsolved until 87, or has gone unsolved since 87, 36 years later. Wow, Carlsbad Police Department sent crime scene evidence to Othram, where forensic grade, I'm not going to say it, was used to build a comprehensive DNA profile for an unknown male suspect. The profile was used by the FBI's forensic genetic genealogy team to develop investigative leads. As a result, Michael Ruff Wigley has been identified as Donna Sue Hyatt's sexual assailant and murderer. So I believe that this could be somewhat of a deterrent for some people. Knowing that, I mean, her just touching his shoulder, she said, left hundreds of cells. I wonder what else they may have gotten off of the bedding in the house. We know they took Kohberger's mattress pad and a pillow with no pillowcase, and it had red stains on it. But what was on the bedding at 1122 King Road? Joe, you're not buying it? Well, we will find out. We will find out because they're asking for everything from these guys. This one kind of floored me. University of Georgia Police Department. In 96, officers responded to the discovery of a deceased infant in a trash can at the University of Georgia. With few leads to pursue, the case soon went cold. In 2021, the University of Georgia Police sent evidence to Othram where scientists developed a DNA extract and built a profile. Othram's in-house genetic genealogist used the profile in a search, and it and returned leads to law enforcement. These leads resulted in the identification of the infant's mother. But look at all these cases. Like from just a bone, like from a burned building. Crazy. I mean, it just goes on and on. From not knowing their identity to confirming identities, but I don't think they've worked on any active cases. So this will probably be the first. '93 skeletal remains found in Virginia. I mean, all these dead people. Oh my God, listen to this one, Toronto. So even Canada's using them. In 1983, a relative of Susan Tice discovered her body in a bedroom of her home. In December of 83, so 4 months later, Erin Gilmore's body was also found in her home by a friend. In 2019, they sent Orthram, whatever, and Joseph George Sutherland was arrested. Weird. 39 years. So would you donate your DNA to a crime database? Let's do a poll. Okay, let's see what you guys think. Nope on a rope. What's his alibi, see? He says he has an alibi. We don't know. You guys are like, no way, Jose. Monroe County, Indiana. God, so many people that they don't even know who they are. Look at this. Oneida County, in 1986, a hunter in Idaho discovered a partial human skull. The partial remains made it hard to produce a definitive forensic facial reconstruction. They confirmed it was Patricia Campbell. What happened to Patricia? She was 14 to 16. 2 Mile Canyon outside Malad, Idaho. 5 years before, the remains of 2 girls were found in the area, both homicide victims, who disappeared in 1978 from the Pocatello area. The 2 homicide victims were Tina Anderson and Patricia Campbell, 12 and 15, whose deaths remain unsolved. At the time of the discovery of the remains, Oneida County Sheriff's Office had not ruled out the possibility that the remains found might be connected to 2 homicide victims from 5 years earlier. Investigators determined that the skull likely belonged to an adolescent girl between the ages of 14 to 16. Most likely white, but probably Hispanic. The uncertain ancestry stems from the incompleteness of the remains and the age of the victim. With all leads exhausted and Dr. Samantha Blatt from the Idaho State University Anthropology Department in 2021 teamed up with Othram to see if advanced DNA testing could help provide new leads that might help identify this unknown young woman or a close family member. So it goes on to say that was 15-year-old Patricia Campbell. This one's sick. New York State. In 1980, a headless and handless body was found in New York. They identified her on May 26th of 2022 as Ann L. Papalardo Blake. Harris County, Texas. 1982, partially skeleton remains found. It's John Howard Glatzel. It's just amazing to me. This one's sad. Columbia, Missouri. In 2019, an infant in an advanced stage of decomp was found in Missouri. Though many leads were investigated, the identity of the infant remained unknown. In 2020, Columbia Police Department partnered with Othram, and it led to the identification of her parents. But look at this. This poor baby was she was Simone Daniels. She was 4 to 5 months old at the time of her death, and her remains had been inside the tire since 2017. She was murdered, however, at a nearby hotel and left at the tire store. And I don't know, was it not her parents? Because they still want information. I don't know. But she was in the tire since 2017. They found a small backpack in the tire in 2019. I mean, all the things we don't hear about. But here, I mean, this one's pretty amazing. In 1960, partially burned remains of a young child, later dubbed as Little Miss Nobody. As if that's not heartbreaking enough. Little Miss Nobody. So no hits. In 2021, the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office partnered with Othram, and they located a potential biological sibling. And it led to the discovery that the little girl was Sharon Lee Gallegos. Poor baby. A Las Vegas school teacher was looking for rocks at Sandwash Creek in Congress, Arizona on July 30th, 1960, only to discover the partially buried remains of a young child. At the scene, investigators documented a set of adult shoe prints, as well as 2 additional locations of disturbed soil. Pathologists determined that the child had been burned and was deceased for 1 to 2 weeks prior to discovery. Due to the higher temperatures, the high decomp rate of the remains made it difficult to determine a cause of death. Additionally, pathologists found no sign of skeletal trauma, indicating that the child had no new or healed bone fractures. Welcome back, Carrie. Her death was ruled a homicide, and they said she was a Caucasian female. Her age was between 2 and 9, although the current age range is most likely 3 to 6. She weighed around 55 pounds and was around 3'5" at the time of her death. Her hair was brown with a potentially artificial auburn tint. She had a full set of baby teeth, which were in pristine condition. The child was found wearing white shorts, a checkered blouse, and male adult flip-flops had been cut to fit her foot size and were tightened with brown leather straps. Her fingernails and toenails had been painted red. Dude, this is creepy as hell. What the heck? What the hell? I mean, freaking weird. And who names a little girl Little Miss Nobody? It's so rude. Trying to figure out what her name is. Oh, Sharon Lee Gallegos was 4 years old when she was abducted from her grandmother's front yard in Alamogordo, New Mexico on July 21st, 1960. The Aguardo Police Department and the FBI searched for the little girl, but were unable to find her or the suspects, who were said to be in a 51 or 52 dark green Plymouth. They originally suspected remains found in the desert to be that of Sharon. Initial thoughts was on the age of the remains, the clothing found in, and a mismatched footprint at the time ruled out the abducted child from New Mexico. Kidnappers vanish after, look at this old paper. She's my baby. I miss her. Distraught mother pleads for a return of daughter 4. It's so sad. Let's see if there's any other that popped out at me. I can't remember. I scrolled through these. I didn't read all of them, though. This lady was found near Talladega Super Speedway, like the NASCAR, in May of 2012. And then they identified her. They didn't know who she was. Jean Turner Ponders. In 1981, a farmer discovered the remains of an adult man. No ID on the individual. All leads were exhausted. In 2020, they figured out who he was. Franklin Feldman. But what's cool about their website, oh, this one popped out at me. Who would kill him? This is a crazy case. Check this out. This was summer of 1989. Human remains were found on the Northwest Shore Fire Island west of Anchorage. Investigators from the Alaska State Troopers responded to the scene and collected the remains. An autopsy concluded the victim was a Caucasian male, estimated to be in his late 30s to 50s. Evidence was found on the remains that indicated the death was criminal in nature. An anthropologist estimated that the remains had been lying exposed on the beach for at least a year, but an approximate date of death could not be accurately determined. The victim's remains were eventually interned at the Anchorage Municipal Cemetery. In 2003, hair and tissue that had been collected during the autopsy were sent to the FBI lab in Virginia, where a DNA profile was developed. The profile was entered into the NamUs, but no ID made. The Alaska Bureau of Investigation Cold Case Unit reopened the investigation in 2021, and skeletal remains were sent to Othram. Othram was able to extract DNA from the skeletal remains and indicated the victim might be Michael Allison Beavers. Beavers had been reported missing to the Anchorage Police Department in January of 1980 by his spouse. He was last seen... This is insane. He was last seen alive in November 1979 when he left his residence in Chugayik to travel to Seattle by automobile to contact a business associate there. Beavers never arrived in Seattle. No information was developed to indicate what had become of Beavers, and the investigation was closed in 1982. In 1992, Beavers was officially declared deceased, so 10 years. He was 41 at the time of his disappearance. He was a heavy equipment operator and he owned an excavation business in the Chugaic area. ABI investigators located a close blood relative of Beaver's and obtained a reference DNA sample. Subsequent DNA analysis confirmed that the remains found on Fire Island were in fact those of Michael Beavers. And the investigation is still ongoing. He looks like Andy Gibb, not to be mistaken with Melanie Gibb. Happy Sunday, Ann Johns. Hey, Laughing Stock. Hey, CEO. So, yeah, just some cases from Othram. Lots of them. Spokane. So you can go and check these out. There's a shit ton. Look at this baby. Oh, she got caught in the brush. Oh, wait. Let's see what happened with her. Poor baby. 38 years. Look at that baby. Oh, my gosh. One morning in December 1982. Can you guys see? This infuriates me. How did nobody miss this baby? Like, how did no one know who she was? He does what? I can't remember what it was. He looks like... You talking about this guy? Who was it? You start looking at enough faces, man, you'll start seeing people you know and shit. It's weird. On the morning in December 82, a truck driver notified Jackson County Sheriff of a possible sighting of a body in the Escatawpa River in Mississippi. Responding deputies recovered the remains of a female toddler caught in the brush from where the sighting was reported. They determined the child died hours earlier, but the case soon went cold as they were unable to identify her or her family. In 2019, Jackson County brought they called her Delta Dawn, in hopes that the genetic testings would help identify her. After 38 years, Delta Dawn's name was restored as Alicia Ann Heinrich, daughter of Gwendolyn Clemens, both of whom vanished in 1982. Othram wishes to express gratitude to Catherine Serbosik, who generously funded the project. They continue to investigate Alicia's death and the disappearance of her mother. And they have a timeline. They're pretty detailed with their work. I wouldn't say this is some kind of hokey company. Northampton, Pennsylvania. They found a woman's body on the highway in 87 and identified her as Donna K. Griffin from Georgia in 2020. Look at this. Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. The search for answers began in 94 when a fisherman discovered a body in a lake. It's likely that the Lake Stickney John Doe had been in the lake for as many as 7 years before being discovered. Despite having less than 0.2 nanograms, less than 20 cells of badly degraded and heavily contaminated human DNA to work with, Othram scientists use forensic-grade genome sequencing and a combination of proprietary enrichment methods and sequencing protocols to reconstruct a genealogical profile. Enrichment methods? Who's governing these companies? That's what I want to know. Who's overseeing these labs? Are they governed by anyone? And then you can read about their technology that they talk about. They have rapid familial relationship testing called KIN SNP, DNA Solves genetic database. And then they have all of the news they've been in.
Creep Town, dude.
Thank you for subscribing. Creep Town, dude. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Let me pull up. I've got something else. Let's pull this thing back up again. So, again, Howard Blum, part 4, is out. He says, in total, according to knowledgeable sources, there was about 20 cells in the knife sheath. Maybe they whispered even fewer. The DNA sample was as small as a fragment of a speck balanced on the head of a tiny pin. So does this explain to you why Kohberger's attorneys are like, whoa, 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 whoa. We need to go over this with a fine-tooth comb because, number one, are these things monitored? Are they governed? Or do they just have free reign to get the technology that they want with the money? Because they said the money is the biggest setback. So they do, I'm going to show you, they do like crowdsourcing for cases. I'll show you what I mean. I'm curious what you guys think. Where is it? Okay, here's their stats. 250,000 unsolved homicides. This number grows yearly as more unsolved homicides are added while only 50% are solved. 50 to 75,000 unidentified human remains and victims are out there. Combined DNA index system alone. Less than 50% of sexual assault kits do not identify the assailant. More than half of the tested sexual assault kits do not identify a suspect. So this is the breaking technology of DNA. Trying to find their where did I see that? Is it on here? This is the site where you can put in your DNA. And it says your DNA could help solve a cold case. DNA Solves is used exclusively to aid human ID investigations in order to help law enforcement solve cold cases. Now I'm going to come over to your poll. What did you guys decide on the poll? %61% of you said no. 38% of you said yes. I'm surprised. Their work is as good as their database, which continues to grow, but the process of developing DNA profiles requires extraction, replication at specific frequencies, using electrophorus. Damn, Joe. It's particularly difficult to work with small samples, especially ones in which other DNA present. Gotcha. So is that why they're probably going to get it thrown out, right? So the DNA will probably be a moot point. I agree, Potato. But I wouldn't give my DNA to to that crime database. Let's see. DNA Solves is solely focused on enabling human ID for law enforcement. The limited scope of use, we do not offer genealogy or health tools, combined with limited access, law enforcement only, allows us to achieve this mission while maximizing privacy and security. Oh, here it is. It's under cases. Map. Okay. So let's go to Florida. See if they have any. So here, this is Dixie County Sheriff's Office. In 1990, human remains belonging to a female newborn were found in Dixie County, Florida. The baby girl was born alive and possibly premature. She became known as Little Dixie Doe. That's so sad. She died from blunt force trauma. In 2005, she was exhumed to obtain DNA evidence. And at the time, DNA profile was unsuccessfully developed from the exhumed remains. Fortunately, in 2019, a second attempt was made at the University of North Texas, and it was successful, but there was no match. In 2022, Dixie County partnered with Othram to use forensic testing. The hope is that a more comprehensive profile will generate new leads. So they have this fund, and you can contribute to the cases that you want to see solved. And then they show how many, like that one shows where they're at with their goals. So here, just as a reminder, this is what Ann Taylor just filed regarding the DNA. Mr. Kohberger requests an order for the state to disclose the following items included in the defendant's first supplemental request for discovery. Request number 49, all lab testing, including photographs and color diagrams and bench notes, including but not limited to copies of lab reports detailing the forensic evidence collection and analysis of items recovered at Bryan Kohberger's parents' house, trash cans and other receptacles, and Bryan Kohberger's Hyundai Elantra. As of May 4th, counsel for Mr. Kohberger has not received the requested materials, and based upon information and belief, these reports contain exculpatory information. So it's getting interesting. We got a lot of people trying to look credible, and we've got a lot of people trying to discredit. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. And if you didn't know, the May 25th hearing for the Gonsalves family has been changed to the 22nd. So they're going to be challenging that with the media and with the Gonsalves family, challenging that non-dissemination order then. So I want to apologize, too, for not doing the Daybell this weekend. I think I just needed a straight-up break. But we will catch up. But right now, I want to share with you something that I put together just so we wouldn't feel like, we missed out this week. So I've got to airdrop it. I've been working on this on my phone for you guys. I kind of broke down just the whole weirdness of the shows in like a video for you. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you put your humorous tinfoil hats on. Okay, you're going to have to wait a couple minutes. I've got to save it. Let me read some of your comments while we wait. DNA tends to get thrown out, although it has been used to clear wrongfully convicted suspects when someone else's DNA found under victims' fingernails, etc. Okay, so Joe, since you seem to know a lot about DNA, I've had a question throughout this whole process, and it's this, okay? So, for example, and I'm going to try to make this as least confusing as I can.
Why are people such idiots?
If I were to take, let's say I took my neighbor's DNA and I sent it into Ancestry, and I commit a crime and I leave their DNA at the scene. Does that make sense? And then they send the DNA in and it matches to them and not me. Can that happen? Like, can I send, what if Bryan Kohberger sent in someone else's DNA and it really wasn't? I mean, I'm not saying he did, but could that happen? Be sure to check out my other videos and playlists for more true crime content. And if that's not enough, you can join our Patreon. Don't have a tinfoil hat? It's okay. We'll make you one. It's that easy. See you guys in the next video.
See you later. Bye.